Hi, have you ever got your quilt together and decided you wanted to put Fireside or Minky on the back for its coziness, only to find out that it's less than 60 inches wide and your quilt is 64? Well, rather than piecing two pieces together and making a wide back with a seam down the center, let me show you what you can do. All you need is heat press batting together or a batting tape, and I'll show you how to do it. I'm Lori from Lori's Country Cottage. Okay, so what I've got here is the calculation chart from Jinny Beyer, and the link will be on our website. And so what you do is you fill in the amounts for all the lengths and widths that you want. So my desired quilt back needs to be 66 inches. My desired length is 76. I have only 59 inches wide fabric. So it will never fit this unless I double it up and cut 76 inches twice and then sew it together. So if you take your 66, you fill in the boxes, you take the pink one down to the pink one, 66 minus your width, usable width, and there's 7 inches difference. 7 times the total length of the quilt back, 76 inches, is 532 inches. Then in the next step, you go 2 times your usable width. Your 59 inches is 118. Carry your 118 down, subtract the 66 inches, which is the width that I need, gives me 52 inches. So I take my 532 from up here, my 52 from here, add those two together, divide those two, and I get 10.3 or 11 inches, we'll say. So 11 inches plus my original 76 inches is 87 inches. So I need 87 inches. Now I divide that by 39.5 to get the meters. That's 2.2 meters. If I was going to try to 76 out of my meat, that is almost 60 inches wide, I would need 2 total lengths. So that's almost 2 meters times 2. So 76 and 76 is 152. I divide that by 39.5 and I get 3.8 meters. If I do it this way that I'm going to show you, I need 2.2 meters. So when your quilt is not that much bigger than what you need, what you have for width, this is a great way to do it. Now it's really hard to explain. The instructions are up top here, but I'm going to show you what I am talking about, because once you can see it, it's much easier. So here is my quilt back, and I've made it just under 6 inches by 8.5 inches. So that is mimicking the almost 60 inches by 85 inches what the length of my quilt is. So I want to cut this on the diagonal all the way across. As you see, I've cut it. But what you want to do first is put the heat press batting tape that I showed you earlier. You want to put that from corner to corner. So real easy for me to mark this corner to corner and cut because it's only tiny. But when you're looking at 85 inches here, this is pretty long. And so what you want to do is get someone to hold one end of the tape and you hold the other, and then you iron it on. What that tape does is stabilizes that edge so that when you cut it, you've got a nice stable edge to resew. So now, if I've got that tape on there and I want to resew this, and so if I bring this down till I have the right width, If I've used the calculations correct, I still have enough length, but you see how this got wider? You cut off these tips, and there you've got a wide enough quilt back. Alternately, if you didn't have it quite long enough, but you've got ample width, you could do it the other way. See, that got longer. And you cut the tips off again. And you've got a longer piece for your backing. Now, when you're using the cuddle or the minky, and you're going to sew it on the diagonal, you have to be sure that you do a lot of pinning to hold it nice so that it doesn't shift on you. And when you stitch that along the diagonal like that, rather than stitching two full wide pieces, your seam disappears much nicer than it does if you have two pieces with a seam down the center. So I hope that saves you a little bit on thinking how you're going to finish up your quilts with the back. If you've got cuddle or minky in mind and it's not quite wide enough, use the calculations from the link to figure out how much yardage you have, and then use your heat press tape along the diagonal line, cut it through the center of that tape, and then reposition it and sew it together. Well, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, you can call the store and ask the girls there. We explain this quite often when we are quilting somebody's quilt for them. We have long arm quilting at the store. When you bring in a quilt, we like it to be 4 to 6 inches larger all the way around. So your quilt would be in all the way around. So between 8 and 12 inches larger than what your quilt is. That is so that if it goes on the machine, a little crooked, or your quilt is a little crooked, and you think about if this edge is right along the straight here, but if it's a little bit off, you see that's not very much off. But what happens down here is it's way off, and it could end up being short. That's why we like to be sure that there's enough backing there that if things shift a little bit, or if our quilts are, heaven forbid, not 100% perfect, they still look pretty when they are quilted. So, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on Thursday for Anything Goes.